Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to completely demystify something most of us, frankly, never think twice about, but our modern world absolutely depends on it. We're diving into the intense physical rigor and the frankly overwhelming bureaucracy required to keep massive cargo ships seaworthy. It's this wild, fascinating world hidden right out there on the open ocean. To figure out how all this actually works in practice, we'll be looking at an industry-leading maritime safety guide. And man, looking at these guidelines, it becomes immediately apparent that a shipmaster isn't just steering a big boat. No, they're managing a floating, heavily regulated city. And the rulebook for this city, it's incredibly dense. So let's take a quick look at our manifest for today's voyage. First up, the ultimate maritime blueprint. Then, navigating a sea of paperwork. Third, keeping the ship afloat. Fourth, prepared for the worst. And finally, protecting the human element. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the Ultimate Maritime Blueprint. To really wrap your head around this manual, you kind of have to realize that the shipmaster is wearing three hats all at once. They're the administrator, the chief engineer, and basically the mayor. That is exactly why their life is organized into these 5 massive core checklists. You've got Checklist 1 for routine daily maintenance, all the way down to Checklist 5, which covers the Maritime Labor Convention. It literally covers everything from inspecting hatch covers to enforcing international labor laws. Moving right along to Section 2, navigating a sea of paperwork. You know, before a single wrench is even turned, the crew has to navigate the zoning laws of the open ocean, and it is a dizzying acronym soup that represents a massive cognitive load. Think about it. You've got SOLAS for safety, MARPOL for pollution, STWC for training, ISPS for security, and the list goes on. Each one of these represents hundreds of pages of compliance that the crew must know, track, and prove they're adhering to at any given moment. And beyond just knowing the laws, the sheer administrative burden is staggering. Every single thing that happens on the ship has to be recorded. I mean, every drop of oil, every piece of garbage, every ounce of ballast water is meticulously logged. Take the ballast water record book, just as an example. That thing must be maintained on board for a minimum of 2 whole years, and then it's kept in the company's control for 3 more years after that. Okay, let's look at Section 3, keeping the ship afloat. Because here's the thing. Paperwork alone won't stop a vessel from sinking, right? The manual dictates this grueling, constant physical maintenance to battle the ocean, which is a highly corrosive and unforgiving environment. Up on the deck and hull, crews are just constantly checking air pipes and hatch covers for rust or holes. Meanwhile, deep down in the engine room, maintenance involves monitoring the main switchboards and these incredibly intricate bilge pumping systems. It's just a never-ending battle against the elements. To show you just how granular this actually gets, look no further than the number 15. So regulations under MARPOL require testing a highly specific 15 parts per million alarm on the oily water separator. This isn't just about making sure the engine runs, this is micromanaging the exact chemical output of the ship to prevent marine pollution. That is a crazy level of detail. Which brings us to Section 4, prepared for the worst. Even with perfect maintenance, emergencies are gonna happen at sea, and port inspectors will rigorously test a crew's readiness for disaster. The procedural drama on board is intense. We're talking abandoned ship drills, fire drills, and highly dangerous enclosed space rescue operations. But before any of that can happen, notice step 1. You have to solve the very real problem of ensuring a diverse, international crew can actually understand one another in the heat of the moment. The manual explicitly advises masters on this very issue. It clearly notes that all the lifeboats, breathing apparatuses, and emergency fire pumps in the world will absolutely not save a crew that cannot communicate during a crisis. The human element of coordination is quite literally just as vital as the mechanical functionality of a fire extinguisher. And that leads us to a pretty fascinating question. We know how to protect the steel, the engine, and the cargo, right? We know how to protect the environment from the ship, but who protects the crew from the ship? This marks a pivotal shift in the manual, moving away from the steel and engines and focusing on the humans on board. Let's dive into our final section, Section 5, protecting the human element. This is where we get into the Maritime Labor Convention of 2006, which is essentially the seafarer's Bill of Rights. Because good maintenance isn't just about preserving the hull, it's about preserving the physical and mental well-being of the actual humans working there. So alongside launching lifeboats and testing fire detectors, the shipmaster has to log daily hours of rest to prevent fatigue, rigorously inspect the galleys for safe food storage, and verify valid medical certificates for everyone. The crucial point here is establishing strict, undeniable baselines for human safety. For instance, the manual highlights the absolute minimum age of 16 for embarkation. This is a hard line drawn in international maritime law to prevent child labor at sea, ensuring that the heavy, extremely dangerous work of running a cargo ship is left entirely to adults. The checklist goes on to meticulously ensure that seafarers are treated fairly across the board. Wages have to be paid at least monthly, ships with 5 or more seafarers are required to have a dedicated safety committee, there are incredibly strict rules for regular inspections of drinking water, and critically, crews must have a reliable means to transmit their earnings to their families back home. The ship is a workplace, for sure, but we can't forget that it is also their home and their livelihood. Ultimately, when you step back and look at all these guidelines combined, it becomes crystal clear that a shipmaster isn't just sitting around checking off boxes on a clipboard. They are engaged in this high-stakes balancing act, managing international law, complex heavy machinery, and fragile human lives, all at once, just to keep global trade moving smoothly across our oceans. So, the very next time a package from overseas arrives at your front door, I want you to consider the massive floating city that brought it to you. Could you handle the pressure, the mountain of paperwork, and the physical rigor of running that operation? It's a hidden world of rules and immense responsibility, and it's happening every second of every day on oceans around the globe. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.